Okay, so in today's video, we'll be looking at the Mpumalanga grade 12 mathematics paper 1 June exam. And this is question 1, as you can see on the right hand side. And we'll be looking at 1.1, where we're solving for x. Now, 1.1.1, the question is already in the format a times b is equals to 0, of which is called the zero law, whereby either a is equals to 0 or b is equals to 0. So if a question is already having the two factorized brackets, or the two terms in the brackets that have been factorized, and then on the right hand side the equals of the equal sign, you have a 0, you just simply have to now select one of the two factors, of which is following the 0 law. Now with this case, you'd have to just equate 2 plus x equals to 0, and then you get to x to be equal to negative 2. And on the right, of which is your b, you'd have to I can't undo now. You'd have to isolate this negative x plus 4 equals to 0. Well, you can do it without the brackets. Just make sure my 0 is looking proper here. Right. Then this is just minus x plus 4 is equals to 0. And you can either take the minus x to the right hand side or take the 4 to the right hand side. So this will become minus x is equals to minus 4, and then you divide by negative 1 on both sides. And then x is equals to positive 4, of which x is equals to a 4. Then you have your 2 marks just like that. So the answer will be x is equals to negative 2 and x is equals to 4, and then you get your 2 marks. Now 1.1.2 is a quadratic equation that is not in standard form. So we always say the moment you see correct 2 decimal places, you know that whatever quadratic equation you have, you must use the quadratic formula. So first things first is to put this equation into its standard form, of which is ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0, so that you can be able to identify a, b, and c. So how do we do that for this equation? So it's a 3x squared equals to 2x plus 4. You have to take the 2x plus 4 to the left hand side, so that it becomes a 3x squared minus 2x minus 4 equals to 0. And then now you have to identify that your a is equals to a 3, your b is equals to negative 2, and your c is equals to negative 4. The next up it's substituting into your quadratic formula. You need to first write down the quadratic formula properly, and that'll be your x is equals to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. The next step is substitution, and this substitution gives you a mark as well, so you must make sure that you substitute everything perfectly. So this is negative 2 plus or minus the square root of, and don't forget, whenever you're substituting, you must always include the bracket. That will be minus 2 squared minus 4 times 3 and times negative 4. Negative 4. Right. Then it's all over 2 times 3. Now next step would be simplifying the value of the minus b and also simplifying what's inside the square root of which is your discriminant. Then this becomes a positive 2 plus or a minus, and if you punch that in a calculator, that will be 4 plus 4 times 3 times 4, and then that gives you the root of 52 all over 6. Next up, we just punch that in a calculator and you start using 2 plus root of 52 divided by 6, and then you get that x is equal to 1.54, or when you substitute or when you calculate 2 minus root of 52 divided by 6, you get x is equals to negative 0.87, and that's how you get your 4 marks. And let's get to 1.1.3. 1.1.3. This one, we call it the what? Squared equations. This one, it's x minus 2 root of x minus 1 equals to a 4. Now, the first mark that you get here is isolating the part that has this part that has the square root. Okay. Let me just erase that. And rewrite it properly. Okay. Let me rewrite the whole equation properly. The equation is x minus 2 root x minus 1 equals to 4. Now, what do we isolate? We want to isolate the minus 2 square root of x minus 1. So if we isolate it, we will take it to the right hand side and we take the 4 to the left hand side, so that it becomes x minus 4 is equals to 2 square root of x minus 1. Now, in most cases, you will find learners jumping straight to squaring on this second step. I like to do it this way. I rewrite it again as x minus 4 is equals to 2 root of x minus 1. And then that's when I will square, because sometimes the marks are going to come from you isolating in here and now you squaring in here, depending on the marking guideline. Now when we expand, this is just x minus 4, which is equal to. Now another mistake that most learners will tend to do is that they will remove this square root but forget to square up the 2 in order to get 4 multiplied by x minus 1. And then this becomes x squared minus 4x plus 16 equals to 4x minus 4. And this becomes x squared minus 8x plus 16 minus 4x plus 4 equals to 0. equals 0. Now we will add up the like terms in order to get x squared minus 12x and plus 20 is equals to 0. And this you can simply factorize by opening two brackets and putting an x and an x. And since there is a plus here on this part of plus 20, that means our signs are the same. And which signs? We look at the signs of the value or number with x. So the signs will be negative and negative. Now what factors of 20 will give us 12? That's 2 and 10. So it's a minus 10 and a minus 2. And next up, we simplify. Following the 0 law, that a times b is equal to 0 if a is equal to 0 or b is equal to 0. So with us, this is x minus 10 is equal to 0 or x minus 2 is equals to 0. And this is x is equals to 10 or x is equals to 2. Now you are not done when you get to this level. You will then have to take your calculator and try and substitute back into the original equation, which was given in 1.1.3, that x minus 2 root of x minus 1 is equal to 4. Now you want to prove that is it really going to give you an equal to 4. So you substitute first 10 and you test that does it give you 4. So if we calculate here that 10 minus 2 times square root of 10 minus 1, of which is square root of 9, which is what? 2 times 3, and 10 minus 2 times 3 will give you exactly 4. But then when we use x is equal to 2, we get something like 2 minus 2 root of 2 minus 1, of which is 2 minus 2 times 1, and 2 minus 2 times 1 will give you a 0, and therefore it's not equal to. And therefore in that answer you must say that this is not applicable, which is not true. And then you get a mark for this one, and you get a mark for getting all these two solutions, and you get a mark for factorizing properly, and you get a mark for the squaring, and that's where you get your 6 marks. Next up, I think I should stop at 1.1.4 and then we'll continue the other one. Next up will be 1.1.4, the inequality. Now in 1.1.4, we're doing the inequality, of which is negative x minus 12 greater than negative x squared. Now, to solve this inequality, you must first put it in the standard form of ax squared plus bx plus c greater than 0 or less than 0. But in this case, we have greater than. So we have to take the negative x squared. Let me erase that. The negative x squared. We take it to the left hand side, so it becomes a positive x squared minus x minus 12 greater than 0. Next up, we factorize as per normal by opening two brackets, and we put x and x. Then we're gonna have a minus and a plus because the sign of 12 is a negative, so it means the signs are different. And factors of 12 that give us a 1 would be a 4 and a 3. But then to get a negative x, you must have a negative 4 and a 3, like this. The next step is very crucial because it gives you a mark. You must identify your critical values, of which I like to use CV. And your critical values are basically you saying x minus 4 is equal to 0 and x is equal to 4, and x plus e3 is equal to 0 and x is equal to negative 3. Now, most learners would then leave from this part, of which that's when they lose their marks and end up getting 2 marks or sometimes 3 marks. But from the part of CV, we'll have to then look for or plot. I like to use the graph of a parabola. Now, what are our critical values? The smallest one is x is equal to negative 3. So we'll put negative 3 here and we put positive 4 here. Then we draw our nice parabola here. But our equation was looking for the values of x of which will be greater than 0. And when they say greater than, you just shade outside of this and you shade outside of this. And then when you now have to put it in a notation, I would say the values of x that will give me a value of y that is greater than 0 are the values of x that are less than negative 3, or the values of x that are greater than positive 4. Okay, and we'll stop right there. Then we continue with the simultaneous equation and 1.3.